Hello, this is my review of the Trond BT-RXS Bluetooth audio receiver. I've had one of these for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. Primarily bought this to use with headphones because I wanted something completely cordless so I could wander around doing stuff while I was either listening to YouTube videos or music or whatever. At the time I was looking to buy one of these, there wasn't really many options available, and out of those options this really was the only one that was particularly cheap. I think it came in about £20. Most of the Bluetooth receivers that I could find were basically for plugging into an amplifier or TV or amplified speaker, something like that, and they all required a 5-volt supply to them, usually through a USB port, and this has got a USB port on the back. And you can use this powered from a power supply or powered from a USB port, but as I say, it does have a battery in it as well, so it's completely standalone if you want to use it that way. On the side here you can see we've got an on-off switch, which is obviously fairly self-explanatory. It just turns it on and off. The top, there's nothing at all. And on the front here there's a little hole down here. That's actually an LED. On the underside we've got a micro USB port here. That can be used either just to power it or to charge it, and you can use it and charge it at the same time. To the right of that we've got a little 3.5mm headphone jack for your headphones, or you could also plug that into a line in on another device, so you can use this to get Bluetooth audio into something that doesn't support Bluetooth natively. On the side here we've got 3 buttons. The plus and minus are both for volume control and also skipping backwards and forwards with your tracks or your videos, depending on what you're playing at the time. And then this unmarked button at the side is actually a play and pause button, so you can press that to start playback, press it again and that will pause, and then obviously you press it again, it will resume from where it was previously paused. Coming back to the plus and minus buttons for a moment, if you hold these down, that's how you change the volume level. A quick tap will just either skip forward or backward a track. So if you've got a list of tracks in your media player, that will then skip to the next track or the previous track, depending on which you press. If you want to change the volume, you just have to hold the button for a short moment to activate the volume change, and then if you keep it held, it will either keep continuing to increase or continuing to decrease. I have to be honest, this is a pretty annoying way of implementing this, because if you press the plus or minus briefly to change the volume and you don't press it long enough, you'll end up with a track skip. So if you're halfway through something playing, you could then skip to the next or previous track, which is pretty annoying because there's no way then to fast forward or rewind to the point that you were at. Especially annoying if you're listening to an audio book or something. Personally, I would have sooner than not done this combined track skip and volume button system here, and actually just had 2 more buttons either up here or even over here would have been fine really. If the player you're using doesn't support the track skip forward and backwards or the pause and play, then that will just act as a volume control, but you will still need to hold the button down to activate the volume change, so a quick press will just do nothing in that scenario. Also, on the subject of volume levels, there's a couple of other issues with the volume that I don't like about this. One thing is that when the volume level is very low, there is a lot of background hiss, and that hiss is always there, but obviously when your volume level is low, you tend to notice it more. It just seems to be there all the time. And also, if the volume level is on the first probably 2 or 3 clicks of volume level, the very low sounds seem to get clipped off altogether, so the audio is a bit choppy. And that's nothing to do with the Bluetooth connection itself. It's just as if the amplifier is just not bothering to amplify the quieter sounds. So you've got a sort of a minimum level really where the volume level is effective. One solution I've found to get around this, and it works quite well, if you've got a set of headphones like this where these have got a inbuilt volume control, you can obviously knock your volume level up on this a little bit further than you'd normally have it, and then use the volume on the headphones to bring that volume level back down again, and that will then give you basically a higher signal to noise ratio, so you'll get a lot less hiss. You can almost eliminate it that way, and also the quieter sounds won't get chopped out then, like they do when this is on its lower volume settings. Another thing with the volume level I've found with this, if you've got very quiet sounds playing through this for a period of time, it seems to activate some sort of a sleep mode where this will just basically stop playing any noise at all. And it's not that this shuts down and disconnects, it's almost as if it turns off the amplifier, because as soon as you press the plus or the minus button, generally the plus actually, to increase the volume level just a little bit, it comes back to life. And it's not like it's reconnecting, there's no delay with the Bluetooth reconnecting. So it's almost as if the internal amplifier just shuts off because the volume level's so low it thinks, well, there's nothing to hear. So I think that's possibly an over-enthusiastic power saving feature. And this problem really only is noticeable when you've got this right down to the very lowest of levels. So I've just got the specifications from the manual up here at the minute. You can see here you've got the working range, it says up to 10 meters. I'm going to be honest, I think realistically this works to about 4 or 5 meters with a reasonably good Bluetooth transmitter dongle. Well, I'm using an okay-ish one, and that's with that placed about 1.5 meters or more above the floor level, so there's no obstructions, there's no metal casing out getting in the way. I can get a good 4 or 5 meters with no problems whatsoever. You can go further out, but I do find that it gets choppy. For instance, if I've got this on in a pocket and I turn so that my body's between this and the transmitter, sometimes it will go choppy. You're not going to get the full 10 meters, but you'll get a good 4 or 5 with a decent transmitter. Even though I've had this for a good 2.5 years, I'm finding I'm still getting a good 8 hours out of the battery. Although I have to admit that is with, as you can see, this sort of smaller in the ear headphones. If you use the larger headphones with the larger driver, I would guess that you would get a much lower battery life out of it, but I've not tried it, so I don't really know. And on here it says a charging time around 2 hours, and to be fair, I've had an hour and a half, and sometimes it'll be fully charged from flat. And what I'll also do is just put this little booklet up on the screen for a few seconds, so anyone wants to have a look at that, they can pause the video and go through the specs. There's about 6 pages to this. This also supports the aptX low latency mode, so if you compare this to a compatible Bluetooth device that supports that, then you can watch video or play a game and you'll have almost no notable delay between the audio and what's going on the screen. It's fairly straightforward to pair this up to a device. All you have to do is search for devices, search for Bluetooth devices, and it'll appear on the list of available devices as a Trond BT-RXS, and you just select it by name and then that will pair to it. In the little booklet that comes with this, there is also a list of possible pin codes that you might need for pairing if you're asked for it. I'm pretty sure I've paired this to most things and not had to do anything. I've tried it with a Bluetooth dongle on a PC and also tablets and a phone as well. If nothing's connected to this for 10 minutes, it will switch itself off into like a power saving mode. What you'll then have to do to reactivate it is just slide the switch back to the off position and then back to the on again to re-enable it. If you are connected to something and you go out of range, it tends to keep beeping for a while. It'll just a blip every now and again because it's just telling you it's disconnected, but it's still searching to try and reconnect to a previously paired device. And if you come back within range within that 10-minute period, it will just reconnect and carry on. The indicator light here will show you the charging status if it's plugged in. It will go red if it's charging, solid blue if it's fully charged. If this is switched on and it's not plugged into a charger, you get a blue flash every so often when it's connected and paired, just to show you that there's connectivity there. If the battery starts to go low, you'll get a red flash on there instead, and you'll also get a bleep about 5 to 10 minutes before the battery's completely dead, and then it'll probably give you another bleep, and then you get a double or triple bleep and it just shuts off when the battery's totally dead. So when you buy one of these, you obviously don't just get the receiver itself, you also get all the bits in the box. So I'll have a quick look at what else you get. Obviously that's packed in there in the foam. I'll get this little insert out of the way. So you get 3 leads and an adapter, and obviously a little instruction booklet. And the 3 leads you get are a 3.5mm to 3.5mm headphone style cable, so you can plug that in and then obviously plug that to something with a line in. that uses a 3.5mm jack. There's also this adapter to convert it from a 3.5mm jack to a phono input, so that would be useful, say, on the back of an amplifier, something with these kind of inputs. And the other thing you can do is this 3.5 to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter. So you could just plug that in there through that, and that will give you a shorter cable, or maybe you've got another adapter for a different kind of connector that you can use that for. You could theoretically just plug this straight into a socket, but personally I wouldn't want that flapping around. It's just asking for something to get snapped off, that is, so I wouldn't want to do that. And you also get this USB, micro USB to USB-A lead, so you can obviously use that as a charging cable and plug that into a USB power supply or a USB port. It doesn't come with a charger in the box. So would I recommend this? I'd say if you had the same needs as me and you're just wanting to use it with some basic small headphones, possibly larger ones, it's just not something I've tested, then I would say yes. I think having the inline volume control is useful if you want to be able to listen at low volume. If you're not going to do that, then the low volume issues I've mentioned earlier are probably not going to bother you. If you just wanted something to use as a stationary unit to plug into, say, a stereo system, I'd actually say go for something that doesn't have a battery in. In terms of durability, you can see here there's now two of these. This is actually the first one I bought. This is the one I bought about two and a half years ago. You'll see the corners are quite worn down because it's been in my pocket all the time, or sometimes I've worn this in bed if I've had trouble sleeping. It just helps have something to listen to sometimes. And it still works. The battery still holds a good 8 hours charge. The headphone port's a bit iffy on it now. I lose one of the channels. I think that's partly because the cables ended up getting yanked out a few times. And so considering the amount of use it's had, and to some extent the abuse, I think it's done well enough. This one is obviously a lot better condition. This one is only a bit over a year old, but unfortunately the battery in this one is not holding a charge anymore, and it hasn't been used anywhere near as much as this. So one thing I am going to do is a teardown of probably both of these in another video if anyone's interested to see what's inside these, and I might try and pinch the battery out of this one and put it in this one if I can, do a repair or get another battery or something like that. So if you're interested in that, look out for that video. Other than that, that's it for this review. Hope it's useful to somebody.